Hit it. Hey, what's going on? Nightwing here, and today I just want to talk about the Superman film. I just came back from watching it on Thursday, and I liked it overall. I thought it was a really good film, but I'm not here to talk specifically about Superman. I just want to talk about why I feel like this film is important, not just for me as like a DC fan or for like other fans of superheroes in general, but why this is important for pop culture as a whole. So let's get into it. The first thing that I think is really important when talking about like how this film will affect pop culture is how this film, because of the varying success that it has right now, the box office haul is around 217 million, which is about on par with Man of Steel or like a little bit less than Man of Steel. So it seems like this film is definitely going to hit the 600 to 700 million range. And this is pretty good because now this opens the floodgates for more DC stories. And that might sound like that's not a big deal, but in reality, that's a very big deal because DC has some incredible stories. I mean, off the top of my head, there's Watchmen, V for Vendetta, Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run. You have Bruno Rodaldo and Tom Taylor's Nightwing run. You have Dark Knight. Oh my God, All-Star Superman. You have all these fantastic stories that these filmmakers, TV creators, video game makers, because this DCU, this new DCU that James Gunn has, the floodgates have been completely open for these awesome stories to come in. And I feel like pop culture in general is lacking like these insane stories that DC has, but they've just never been able to really hit the mainstream or really being able to get out there, get their word, get their ideas, their thoughts, their kind of like the stories in general out there to the mainstream public because they're usually relegated to comic books, they're animated movies, and not a lot of people really delve into that stuff as much as I think people should. So imagine a film universe that is like all Green Lantern, and you go through the entire Green Lantern, like Jeff Johns' Green Lantern saga. That would be fantastic. You have the first film where you have Hal Jordan becoming the Green Lantern, and then he fights the Manhunters, and then in the next film you can have him find the Sinestro Corps, and then in the next one you can have him find the Red Lanterns or Voltrum, the First Lantern. Like, it'd be so cool. And now that that possibility is out there, I cannot wait for people to delve into DC stories because there's so much cool stuff happening in DC Comics and in animation stuff that I really can't wait for people to experience. So I think that's a really big thing. That's a really big outcome of this film. And that if this film continues on the path, I feel like we can get awesome stories like that. So with that said, let's now talk about how I think the film performed. I already touched upon how the first weekend box office haul ended up being, and it's overall, I would say it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie and say that, I'm gonna be honest, it is a little, not too much, but it definitely was a little underwhelming, especially considering how much attention and media hype and advertising there was around this film. I'm a little I wouldn't say worried, but it definitely has me a little shaky about how things are setting up. I definitely expected this film to at least hit the 125 or 150 mark domestically. I think here domestically in America it hit like 117 with like 100 mil coming from the rest of the world, and that's interesting because the rest of the world is not as tuned to this film as I thought. It's not doing all that fantastic. Now, it's not doing horrible, but it's not doing as well as I was expecting, which is a little bit surprising. I can't understand why, because Superman is a worldwide phenomenon. He has been for the past 80 years. The only thing I can really say is that Superman has had a lot of hits, especially coming from Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers has not represented the character well in the past, 12 years? I mean, a lot of people will argue that Man of Steel wasn't a good representation of the character. Actually, no, I believe that, actually. So really, it's not even 12, it's more like 20 plus years. I mean, Smallville came out before Man of Steel, I believe. And that's a little unfortunate because outside of, this film, the only, good representations we've had of Superman is Superman and Lois, the CW show, which I hear is pretty good. I hear it gets his character right. I haven't seen it, but I hear that it does Superman justice. And also, My Adventures with Superman. I checked out the first season of that show, and I liked it. It was actually pretty good. I'm really happy that I watched it, and I want to continue watching that. I don't know if they're still making new episodes or if the show got canceled. I will have to look into that. But yeah, outside of those two examples, Superman has not been represented well by Warner Brothers at all. They have done him very dirty. And this is coming from somebody who actually likes Injustice, and I actually like the story. It does not do Superman right at all. Even though I love the Injustice story, I think there's a really cool plot going on in Injustice. It's not Superman whatsoever. I really wish Injustice's Superman was called like Ultraman or something. You know, I wish it wasn't Superman because Superman would never do this, and it definitely does not get his character right whatsoever. So that's definitely a reason I believe that the box office, maybe internationally, isn't so well because people don't really, because unless you live in America or you live in North America, you're not really tuned into like, oh, Superman and Lois or the My Adventures of Superman, right? Most likely you've gotten your Superman fix, quote unquote, from Injustice because Injustice is a massive game. Like, I don't think people realize how big Injustice 1 and Injustice 2 were. Like, there's some of the few fighting games that you can, like, plop down with your friends and just have a good time, and they don't have to know too much, and you can just, like, jive out. That's one of the few fighting games out there where you can, like, just genuinely do that. It's not. I'm not just trying to blame Injustice for the film. There's a lot of other stuff, like, again, Superman's presence hasn't been that big. But even outside of that, I think the good thing and the good news about this film is that unlike Man of Steel, so Man of Steel, when it first came out, it was not reviewed, it was not received well. It took people a lot of time, a lot of hindsight to kind of like feel like, okay, you know what, Man of Steel wasn't as bad as I thought. But when it was released, a majority of people either thought it was okay or outright disliked it. Superman, in this case, like this current film, does not have that same problem. Superman, for the most part, from what I've seen online, from what I've seen from friends and stuff, they tell me that they really like the film. And that's the thing. Man of Steel was able to make 670 million even with its bad word of mouth after the first weekend. So Superman, I think, could possibly make a little bit more than that, especially when you consider the fact that this film is going to have much stronger legs because of positive word of mouth. But the other problem is that Fantastic Four is coming out. Now, don't get me wrong, Fantastic Four I think is going to be great. I can't wait to watch it, I'm going to love it, all that good stuff. But I feel like for them to put this film in front of Superman 2 weeks in front of Superman, that's not the best move for either studio, because now Superman's legs are going to be practically chopped off in 2 weeks, and Fantastic Four, in my opinion, is not going to have that blockbuster weekend opening because people might be fatigued from Superman. Now, I do think it's more likely that Superman's legs are going to be chopped off more so than Fantastic Four not doing too well. But I think a majority of us agree that Fantastic Four isn't going to open as well as Superman, or at least that was my feelings before we got the numbers. And now I think there is a genuine possibility that Fantastic Four could open with the same amount of numbers, a little bit less or a little bit more, which I would find to be really interesting, because as much as Fantastic Four has been loved by, Marvel fans and by just normal people in general, it did not have like the massive marketing push that Superman did. Now, okay, no, that's wrong. It did have a massive marketing push, but not as big as Superman's, which I find to be really interesting. So that's one thing that does have me a little bit worried about Superman, is that Fantastic Four is coming. And normally, especially considering the MCU's, the way people view the MCU these days, I wouldn't be too worried, but Fantastic Four is a massive property, and a lot of people really love the Fantastic Four, rightfully so. So that definitely does have me a little bit on edge. But overall, I think Superman is going to end up with a pretty good total. I think it's definitely surpassing 500 mil, no problem. And I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe James Gunn has been on the record saying if it makes 500 mil, that's okay. Like, that's not the end of the world. So I think this film in the DCU is in good hands. Also, David Zaslav, Warner Brothers CEO, is pretty happy about the results from this weekend. I think he made a tweet or something. I don't remember exactly. So if he's pretty happy about things, I think the DCU is going to be strong moving forward. But I would definitely check out those box office numbers at least every week or so if you want to get the full scoop on things, because we don't know what's going to happen. This film could get some pretty good legs moving forward because of the positive word of mouth, or it could just get cut off by Fantastic Four. We still don't know, and it's going to be a while before we find that out. But anyway, this is going to be Nightwing, the Best Robin, and if you haven't already, go read All-Star Superman.